when it comes down to it, technology is going to change how we do work.
Yeah.
But it's not going to eliminate the need for us to be able to think on our own and make sense of data and make sense of transactions and consider why one path is better than another.
Bruce.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Bizarro Brews. Today we have a very special guest with us. He used to be actually my mentor in college, and he runs one of the biggest accounting firms in Southern California. His name is Wayne. He's been running an excellent firm for the last 30 plus years. How are you doing today, Wayne?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. It's been like 10 years since I've been in this office.
Yeah, and as we walked around, we saw there's a few differences we made in the 10 years, but we haven't had any more space, so we've just had to do with what we have.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on Bizarro Brews. As you know, that the show is about to inspire students, and you do a lot of work with students, especially how you've done getting involved. I'll jump right in. What made you want to start teaching at Cal State Fullerton? How did that opportunity come around?
So it's a weird story, for Cal State Fullerton. In my prior firm, one thing that happened when I got promoted to manager, was I had showed an interest in teaching. Yeah. And they actually put me through a instructor course, and then had me teach nationally for the accounting firm I was with. Yeah. So that was kind of neat. It was an accelerated class. It was a week at a time. Usually in the summer, was teaching entry-level accounting employees who had just come out of college. And roll forward to when I joined Haskell and White in November of 95. Yep. Several years later, I'd been working with Cal State Fullerton on a recruiting standpoint. Several years later, the department chair called me on a Tuesday, I think it was, and said, would you have any interest in teaching intermediate accounting? Yeah. I said, well, tell me more. I said, well, I've got a class. I got a classroom. I've got the syllabus. I've got the book. I got the students. All I need is the instructor. I said, great. When's it start? He says, tonight. And so I said, no, that's not going to work. I can't just jump in and do it tonight. Sounded really interesting though. A year later, different department chair called me, said, hey, would you be interested in teaching auditing? I said, yeah, but please don't tell me it starts tonight. He said, no. I got a book, I got a syllabus, I got a classroom, but it starts 2 weeks from now and meets once a week. And I said, great, let's take a look. And unfortunately for that one, I had conflicts with 12 out of 15, nights.
Yeah.
Right. And so I told them then, if you call me back around Thanksgiving and you need somebody to teach in the spring, I will make sure my calendar's clear. So I started doing that. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but I did teach 21 years, 42 semesters. Yeah. One through the other. So.
How is teaching different than working in the profession for you?
They're very interrelated because our profession is very much a teaching profession. And so some people look at it, well, it's apprentices. Well, we don't have apprentices because apprentices kind of sounds like it's people trying to learn a trade maybe for free. I mean, we bring on entry-level employees which come out of school and they got their knowledge of accounting from the classwork that they had. We need to teach them exactly how to now take all that book knowledge and apply it to whether it's doing audits, which is the side of the shop I'm on, or preparing tax returns on the other side, and ultimately consulting and business, M&A and all that stuff. We have to teach them that. Yeah. It doesn't come straight out of a book. And so teaching in the school is stepping back one level and then teaching the students of stuff that I would expect them to know when they join here. Yeah. But there was a couple of things that were side benefits for me for teaching at Cal State Fullerton. One was I considered it to be a give back to the profession. Second was I was teaching students rules as they came out and before they were being applied. So by the time I had to actually implement new standards and principles and all those things, I was already teaching it. So it helped reinforce language that I needed to know to do my job a year or two later. And the third thing was, we ended up hiring quite a few students that had been at my class once upon a time. And there's still several that work here today from that.
Wow. Okay. So from there, so you did all of that teaching. How did you see the profession change of in student enrollment throughout those different 20 years? My professor, I'll tell you, was Professor Huang Lu, that we both know. He said that whenever there would be a recession, student enrollment would go really high.
It's probably true.
2008, he said enrollment was through the roof. And then when like times are booming, enrollment goes down because people are like focusing on other professions or other aspects they want to go in because they see accounting as more like a safer profession. How did you see that?
I would say those are probably both true. I hadn't thought about it in that realm, but I'll also say that when there is a big development in our industry, and I think one that I'll just use the F word, fraud.
Yeah.
When we had periods of fraud back in the turn of the century and others, and that gave rise to a lot of the standards we had now. When those things popped up, I think people got excited about the profession and things they should be looking into and doing things. Right now, it's a bit strange for me to argue what causes the enrollment because our profession is going through yet another change, effectively rolling back some of the standards that we have to get people licensed, which has probably been an impediment for people to pursue a career in public accounting for the last 10 years or so. So hopefully we'll get enrollment up because the outcome of the students is be able to get them to a licensed position sooner. But accounting, as it is a very stable profession. It's actually been called many times as the backbone of business. I mean, you really have to understand some of accounting so you understand how your company is performing. It is a good stepping stone to go out of public accounting into any job. So it's good that way. I think the negative thing about public accounting in the realm with I'm in is we do suffer from busy seasons. And people recognize that. And, depending on the workload you have and the type of clientele you have, you can manage that to a certain degree.
But don't you think like busy season, that's like a misconception we have in the profession where a busy season is in any profession you take. That's like a good career. And like a high paying career. There's would be like times of ebbs and flows.
There are ebbs and flows, certainly. And I chuckle. Sometimes people leave our firm and leave public accounting and they go into a position, what we would call private industry. So now they're the controller or the accounting manager. And if they've got a company that's very, dynamic and is involved in transactions, they find that they're busier in that realm than they were here. Our profession, though, I think has one major thing guiding its busyness that most other professions don't, and it's the regulatory system. Because we have tax due dates, which give rise to that first calendar quarter busyness getting the tax returns done. We have SEC public company regulations, which have, 90-day annual reporting, 45-day quarterly reporting. And so if your firm, this is not our firm, but if your firm has all December year-end stuff, you're going to be extremely busy in Q1 and lesser so throughout the year. Our firm has a good mix of clients, particularly on the public vein. So good news, bad news, we're busy all year long. And we do have little humps that look busier than other times. Tax still has more of that defined constraint where it is busier the first quarter of the year and then busy again in roughly the third quarter of the year as they're dealing with all the extensions.
So do you think like being able to teach and also mentor people like at your profession, at your firm, do you think that's what also has been like a big factor of you going all of these years through this profession? I
think for my growing, I think teaching has, like I said, the reciprocal value because I think, the old adage is if you don't know how to do it, teach it. You have to learn it, right? Not that I didn't know how to do auditing. That's my career. But I think going through different avenues that I've been involved in, working with professors at the school, working with the Department of Accounting, now the School of Accountancy over the years, working with people here in my own profession, our Alliance Network. There's managing partners across the country that I interact with. There's just a lot of stuff that you get ideas from different people, different organizations. And let's face it, the economy's been good. So it's just, there's, good ways to market and sell. And I think we as a firm are in particularly good position when it comes to competing with what we offer versus the offerings and pricing of much larger firms. So.
Okay. Perfect. And now let's dive deeper in like your personal like journey through accounting. So you started off on the East Coast. Your first job was on the paper route.
Oh yeah, that's juvenile years.
So you started with the paper route, and I've always found it interesting, like people who have this paper routes, always like are some of the most successful people I've known, like, or make that. Like, what do you think, like, is the parallels that goes having that early on as a career that develops, like, gives you the work ethic later down the line?
Yeah, well, first off, I wouldn't call delivering newspapers early mornings or afternoons a career, but some people that they do that, I chuckle because on the East Coast, I delivered papers off my bicycle. and a big bag on my shoulder. When you think about the cartoon paper boys, I mean, that was me. I was delivering papers with a bicycle and a big bag of paper. Here I know my paper is delivered by, early morning by a guy in a pickup truck that throws it out the window. It's totally different.
Yeah.
But it's a great question because I hadn't thought of it this way. If I think back to what those teachings was you had to do on-time delivery.
Yeah.
People expected a newspaper at a certain time. I had to go collect money, for the papers, and I had to remit a portion of it back to the Courier News. That was the newspaper I delivered for in New Jersey. And I got to figure out what my profit was. So very early on, there's a little bit of business accounting going on there.
So you're an independent contractor, actually.
Yeah, I guess you're an independent contractor. Yeah. I mean,
Did you file your own tax return for
at that point? I don't know that, I was, under 16. I don't think that was enough to even warrant a piece of paper for a tax return. Yeah.
Perfect. No 1099s were issued?
No.
Okay. So you did those. And then you jumped into fast food, which is like another high stress kind of job where you and then you made it into management in fast food too. Right.
So I leaped from delivering newspapers to initially flipping burgers at McDonald's for the next level job, which I actually was there for over 6 years. I did that through the tail end of high school and all through college. Within a year, I had learned every position to operate that store. I was what they called a swing manager. The store I worked for was corporate owned. So it was a McDonald's store. It wasn't a franchise. But I learned every position in there. And, that second year of my 6, I think, is when they made me a swing manager. So it's, the ones that wore the pants and shirts as opposed to the, blue smocks and those types, right? So very early learning thing too. There's people management. There's dealing with customers. There was obviously dealing with the cash aspects of it, counting down the register drawers, doing the financial reports. We had inventories we had to do, daily, weekly, monthly inventories, a lot of statistical.
So you're doing inventory counts right there?
Yeah, there's a lot of statistical reports and stuff. I mean, I was reflecting on this the other day and I remember doing these reports, work backwards from the register tapes to figure out how many hamburger patties you should have used and see if that matched what your inventory usage was to see if you had any theft going on. So, just a ton of stuff to learn in there that years later you realize, well, I know that stuff. So, but I did scheduling of people. I did some hiring. It's a little bit of everything.
So from there, what was like one thing you would like say, like gave you one core thing that you developed working at McDonald's that you did not develop throughout later down your career or like really helped you down your career?
I think it was just the general working with people. I mean, the employees that you worked with as peers, the one that you had to manage, the ones you had to convince to do things that they didn't necessarily want to do that day, and then being able to, respond to a customer and make a customer happy.
And then it's also different because like when you're friends, you turn into management for your friends. That dynamic changes too.
Oh, sure. And that's still true today in public accounting. I mean, because people enter the profession as a staff accountant, they get promoted to senior, then maybe the seniors become managers, but not all the seniors become managers. And as we just promoted some managers here, July 1st, you got to start teaching managers what it means to be a manager. You're one of us as a leadership team, not one of them. And that's true for just a lot of different policies that are out there. You got to be able to manage people and be not so much their friend anymore all the time. There's no such thing as sharing stuff in confidence anymore. If it's a problem, it's got to be dealt with.
Your favorite McDonald's meal?
My favorite McDonald's meal? I'm still a sucker for a Big Mac. So
Nice. Perfect. Have you, did they ever fly you out to the McDonald's conference they have where they show the entire world?
I didn't go to a McDonald's conference that I got flown to. I did go to one that was something they had in New York City. I don't know if it was more of a conference or more of a party thing that they had one time. But, we were bused over to New York City. So.
Nice. So let's talk about like your college years. Then you're like going through, what made you want to like move into accounting? I feel like you're very motivated over there. Why pick accounting? You weren't like on the East Coast. People would go more for a finance job. And then
the whole idea of what I ended up into probably morphed really quickly over like a 3 or 4 year period. I honestly, at high school, even the first year or two of college, had no idea what a job in public accounting was. I had my own version of what an accountant was, and I would say I probably pictured what people might think about who listen to this who don't know is they've got green eye shades and a little lamp and they're filling in boxes and primarily doing tax returns. there was a whole new world that I found about auditing when I did an internship. So that was an eye opener.
Yeah.
In high school, I was lucky enough to have a bookkeeping class, which actually introduced me to some of the basic terms like balance sheets and income statements and all those things. So it was good to get that foundation, but truly a couple, 3 years into college, I didn't really know what I was going to do yet.
Okay.
I think, one early memory I have of what I saw accountants doing was the representatives of one of the big 8 firms at the time that walk out on stage on the Oscars with the briefcase, because they did all the votes.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's kind of cool. But I've never gotten the opportunity to do that. But the internship where I did get out and actually practice the idea of doing some audit work.
Yeah.
I realized, okay, there's kind of a fun thing there. And as you go into the profession, I've always enjoyed going to different locations and seeing different businesses and meeting with people. That goes all the way back to those early years, I suppose.
Yeah.
Learning things about lots of businesses. I've had options to go into other lines over the years, but to me, every day is different. Yes, we have month ends and my team has to close our own books here to do that, but I am not doing the same thing every day. I've never have.
Yeah. And then, so over there at BDO, you get signed up. Did you have to do both audit and tax locations?
So BDO, when I joined them, it was, the former name that they had was Seidman and Seidman. It was before the firm started doing consolidations. I was hired as an audit staff, but the audit staff during that infamous busy season were expected to come into the office on weekends and help do tax returns. I would say doing a tax return in early 1985, 86, is not anywhere close to what it is today. I mean, we had input sheets that you literally did check boxes, put numbers in fields, and they were, I guess, legal size turned sideways, and you'd send them off to a service center and a tax return would come back.
Yeah.
I did data entry, if you will. That would be what I would say my experience doing tax returns was data entry. I did my own tax return for several years, but I have not done my own tax return in probably over 30 years.
Okay. So over there, you're doing audit, you're working in tax, you're on the East Coast, and you have like a pretty fast rise at BDO.
Well, I guess really what happened was I did the internship in New York City.
Yeah.
And I graduated, and there's reasons how I ended up out in the LA area, but I convinced them to, of course I had to convince them out here too, to hire me in LA, which actually at the time was Beverly Hills, which also sounded really cool to find my family on the East Coast. Yeah. So I started in Beverly Hills as an audit staff, doing tax work on Saturdays, maybe Sundays during busy season.
So how was that like shift, had you stayed in like West Coast before that, before your time in like BDO?
No, I visited, a couple times on vacation. But, when I came out here, and I've been out here now 41 years. So.
Wow. So, okay. So you're in Beverly Hills, you're at an audit staff. I'm assuming the first few years are like doing inventory counting and like doing the run of the mill audit work. Yeah.
I mean, I had some really nice clients that they put me on that are, kind of nationally known type companies, which was really great. To both of them that are probably fond memories of 2 clients I started with. I learned a ton about inventory, not just the counting of inventory, but truly the costing and the inventory management and that type of thing, which I have to say, going back to the conversation about teaching, the audit and accounting programs at universities don't teach you anything really about inventory. There's a cost accounting class and there's a chapter in the audit textbook. Yeah. It is so much more than what you get out of the class. You really need the hands-on experience to understand it.
Why do you think schools don't teach that?
It's, I have a couple theories. Not to upset the whole education system, but I realized personally over the years I was teaching the audit class as I was teaching a class to introduce you to a profession because, well, you weren't in my class, you were my mentee, but in my class I'd always tell students that, look, I'm going to teach you a bunch of stuff here, but it's about a profession and you may not see some of this stuff for 2, 3, 4 years into your career at an accounting firm. Okay. My goal was twofold. One was to hope that when you did see it, you at least had some familiarity with it and it wasn't like the first time you ever heard it. Yeah. But the real primary reason I think I grew to realize over time was I was helping teach people how to pass the audit section of a CPA exam. Okay. And so there's a lot of basics you got to teach them, but the real teaching of auditing is very much hands-on.
Yeah. So, okay. And now do you think like with how the profession is changing and now how they're developing the profession, do you think they're going to start making changes in the curriculum in colleges now?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And one thing that I've been involved with Cal State Fullerton outside of the classroom is I've been a member of the advisory board. In fact, I've been the chair of the advisory board for probably over 20 years.
Yeah.
And a couple things we do with the advisory board level is, we help try to raise money for the school on one hand. We talk about issues in recruiting and career paths. Yeah. And we also talk about, changes in the classroom that include, different types of classes themselves being introduced to, details of some of the curriculum, things that maybe we see aren't working as clean as what we'd like to see out of students that we hire. It would have been nice if they had learned X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Today, I think the challenges are morphing through, what is, growing emphasis on data analytics, which I always chuckle. I've been analyzing data for 40 years, so it's just a new way to do it at the data analytics, but certainly the advent of all things AI and what that's ultimately going to mean. So, the textbooks that I used would change probably every 18 months to 3 years. I think that stuff's going to be happening a lot faster now. And so, the profession is also looking at a shift in the way our structure is over time. So from the traditional pyramid type thing where you start with a lot of staff and fewer partners to where there'll be maybe fewer jobs done by entry-level staff that traditionally were the mundane, I hate to say sometimes we call them grunt work tasks, but because those things can be turned over to an AI tool or to an outsourced firm that can do all the basic stuff for you. So hopefully the goal is now that the profession moves more and more into, more of an advisory type profession as opposed to a compliance first, advisory second. Yeah.
So that's I understand, that's where I tell people that's eventually things are going to move. And then you and I talked about it earlier, that the profession is needs to move over advisory, but not many staffs or managers are well equipped for that next phase coming in on how to be more advisors than just people doing the work.
Well, it's hard because advisory, break it down, giving advice.
Yeah.
Advice has to come from some level of experience.
Yeah.
And so if you are a student coming out of college in traditional business program, you have, the knowledge that you got from your courses and any part-time job you might have had along the way.
Okay.
And so my experience 40 years ago was my classes and that job at McDonald's that taught me a lot of stuff about people and customer service and whatnot. Going forward though, I do chuckle because I sometimes see somebody goes through an MBA program right on the heels of their undergrad. And the MBA thing, you come out, they're ready to be an advisor.
Yeah.
And again, that's great. They've got a lot more education, but it tends to be more book education unless they were doing an MBA through school while they were working and gaining other experience. So the advisors, advisors of yesteryear are always viewed as the gray-haired, guys and gals that have this wealth of knowledge and we can share. And somehow we've got to be able to accelerate that down to, the younger generation that has to learn stuff faster. And certainly the internet and Claude and all these other things that are out there now are great education things along the way. But having been there, having done it is hard to replace with just an internet search.
Yeah. So good question. So then there's a chicken and an egg problem here, right? Where you want them to be advisors, but they don't have the experience to be able to advise.
Right.
And then, so how do we fulfill that gap? Where do you see in your crystal ball on how does that happen?
Yeah, well, we subscribe to some teaching and methodologies that we try to employ here. Again, more of the senior people are subscribing to it. What I do see is that knowledge base has to start getting more, folks who are younger in their career. I'm trying not to get this age thing, but people that are younger in their career to be getting involved in learning those things. And I think there's going to be a growing set of tools that are available out there, different classes that are available. I chuckle about Claude because we just implemented Claude here officially a month ago, and I get an invite to a Claude email, an email to invite to Claude classes every day.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, yeah, one day I got to sit down and go through a couple of these things and learn a little bit more. I think those are how people are going to get it. They're going to gather a lot of knowledge and they're going to have to experiment. And, at the same time, those of us that are later stage of our career have to remember that we have to bring some of the people who are younger in the career with us. And so they've got to see you interacting with the client, going through, Q&A session, hearing those things that are going to be so important for them to learn and be able to twist around and do that. So, that happens here. We have, our public company practice.
Yeah.
People learn how to serve public companies because they're on a team and they know the difference between a 10K and a 10Q, which hopefully should be pretty simple. But we do a lot of, money raising efforts here too with different registration statements. Just closed one this morning, and people like, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it.
Yeah.
And you can eventually, when you know what you have to do, it's the experience. You can actually advise companies on what they have to do.
Yeah. So then do you think our profession is like more of a giving profession where like the generation with more experience gives it to the younger generation?
It's I wouldn't say giving, I would say transferring.
Okay.
Yeah. Cause I don't think I don't give my knowledge away.
Yeah.
But my goal would be to transfer and teach you.
Yeah, but
what I know.
But doesn't transferring like insinuate that like you're gonna leave that knowledge behind?
Oh, eventually we're all gonna leave something behind. 'Cause we're all terminal, right? So, as we and other firms across the country in our profession deal with the aging of partners in firms, the ownership of firms, we have to, by definition, have a succession plan, which necessitates that we tutor and train those that are the next generation to take over for us.
Where do you think like what makes a good succession plan stand out, and where you've seen it implemented really well?
I think a good succession plan is being able to look at somewhat of a focus of where the profession's going, which is maybe somewhat cloudy. Being able to look back behind you at the depth of your folks and being able to figure out now, well, what do they need to be able to serve that changing profession? And what knowledge again do I have that I have to transfer to somebody who's going to basically take over my job someday? If you look behind you and you don't have people behind you, succession is going to be real difficult. And I would also say when you do this initially, you're doing it without names on boxes. You're doing it with, I have a team. Somebody in that team is going to rise, and eventually you're going to have to name that person who's going to be taking on a specific role. But you have to have, and it has to be somewhat written down. So, I mean, if you don't write it down, most things you don't write it down, they don't get done the way you think they are. Yeah.
But like, how have you thought about like, as your career has like gone on, you probably like start thinking about like down the line about your succession planning.
Yeah. Well,
and it's like a lot of responsibility to have.
I have written one. So,
okay.
So, cause it's kind of weird because when I got into this profession, when I realized what it was, I thought, being a partner someday would be probably a goal.
Yeah.
I never really had a goal of being a managing partner. I think that opportunity certainly arose for a lot of different reasons here. I've been managing partner for 22 of the 30 years I've been here now.
Yeah.
And now it's getting faster. It seems like every day to look at what that theoretical finish line is in terms of an official retirement date. So there's a lot of knowledge that has to be transferred. There's relationships that need to be transferred. There's client work that has to be transferred. Yeah. There's things I do outside of the four walls here that need to be perhaps taken over by somebody. And that may include relationships at Cal State Fullerton, as well as a number of community boards that I serve on. So there's a lot to be done, and it's a good thing I wrote it down a couple of years ago because it's very much on my mind. All those things have to be accomplished.
Nice. And then, so I want to like go back to like your time at BDO.
Why?
Because I'm like intrigued. You made it partner 10 years in working there.
Yeah.
Where people don't make senior manager almost like sometimes.
Well, no, but that was 30 years ago.
Yeah, but like something, I would say it was harder then to make partner than it is now.
I don't know. I think it depends on perspective. I think the general trend in accounting firms is the path to partner has been slower. 10 years was arguably fast.
Yes.
I did make to manager in 4 years, which was arguably fast. I think anybody can do it. And part of the advice we give to our own people here is you can progress as fast as you let yourself.
Yeah.
And so if you want to go after something, you got to go after it. You got to help setting goals, write them down.
Yeah.
Make sure your mentees, your mentors rather, and any other counselor you have are understanding of what you're trying to achieve, so you can have them help you focus on it.
Yeah.
I think too, it's just, if you're going to advance in your career, that's a key word there. You have to treat it like it's a career.
Yeah.
And I think there's been evolution of work ethics that have changed to where people are, 40 hours is kind of enough. I think there's some things that have come out of even say Orange County here where, the kids have grown up. Maybe they didn't have to have that part-time job. The parents are well-to-do. They've provided a car. They've provided all those things. And then a college grad goes out to get a job and it's like, oh, wait, I got to work for that? You want me to work for overtime?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't need to do that to get my car, but now it's, you got to do all those things. And that's one of the things I step all the way back because there's an issue. Just parents need to understand that they need to teach their kids that they have to go for stuff. They have to put the energy into it. They got to treat careers like careers, not 40-hour-a-week jobs. And so people look at our profession. Our profession is known for having a lot of hours.
Yeah.
Our firm does not have the same hours load that you might hear from big firms and stuff like that. It's just, we're much more controlled.
Yeah.
Even then though, people will look at it, it's like, wow, 50 hours this week? Yeah, that's going to be kind of hard. So, look at the firm down the street that has people working 100 hours this week. And I think you'll see a difference.
Okay. So one advice from your mentors at BDO that you still feel like was life-changing or do you think helped you a lot during your time there?
I think I learned from them the same things, different venue, different context that I say I would have learned from McDonald's. I would still teach today is this is a people business.
Yeah.
You have to develop relationships. You have to be responsive. You got to be technical. If you're going to be in the accounting profession, you have to be technical. So you got to know your stuff. So you learn all that stuff. You apply that stuff. You build great relationships. Hopefully those relationships introduce you to other relationships. And so there are people that are your peers, the ones you work for, the ones you supervise. And the accounting profession is still a little bit unusual from general corporate America and maybe a little bit more like other professional service firms where there's a matrix organization.
Yeah.
So you might be working for me tomorrow, but you could be working for another partner tomorrow on some other job. And so you've got multiple bosses and it's very fast learning how to get along with a different environment, different people.
Yeah. And then you came over to Haskell and White. Was it certain or were you told or one of the incentives you could come in someday run the firm, or you just wanted to change?
Well, I was at BDO for 10.5 years.
Yeah. I
generally tell people that I really enjoyed the first 9.
Okay.
The latter portion of that, the last year and a half became a little bit more of a grind. It was actually interesting timing because I had applied, or my papers were in to be promoted partner 1 year and then took another year to actually go in. So had I made it the first time, it would have been 9 years, which was super fast. It was a different time. The economy was weird. There was staffing pressures, whatever. I had a recruiter that would call me every 6 months to see if I was interested in doing something. It was the same recruiter that we would talk to that we'd get employees from. So, every time he called me though, there was some other milestone that I just hit at BDO. And it was like, even now I just made manager, or I just started teaching nationally, or I just made senior manager. But he caught me at a soft moment when I was actually in what was supposed to be vacation. I said, yeah, what do you got? And so I just started talking to a couple of firms, and the first one I talked to, no click, no how. I actually told him I didn't want to talk to Haskell and White the first time, and gradually it worked around. And the shtick that I was sold here, first off, this firm had a written set of values, which I hadn't seen anywhere before.
Okay.
And so, and we still have them. They're still pretty much the same words, and we espouse them and we teach them all the time. So that was cool. BDO may well have them, but I never saw them.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say that they didn't have them, but But the goal here was, Steve Haskell and Dave White, the founders. Dave was 10, 15 years older than Steve. And Dave was the one that ran the audit practice. So there was a suggestion that they needed to talk about succession planning.
Mm-hmm.
They needed to find Dave's successor to lead the audit practice.
Okay.
And it was also one where they, were looking for somebody to help grow the audit practice, obviously. And we're open to somebody coming in and setting new standards and how you want to do it. So I was sold an opportunity to come in and change the face of what this firm did and put my mark on how the firm does it.
Yeah.
And yes, we ultimately did transfer the audit practice to me running it, and Dave retired, and my rise to the managing partner here was not planned. It was because Steve Haskell got sick. And so if you look at, you've been in my office, if you look at the article on the wall, there's a whole article talking about succession planning, but Steve ended up with stage 4 lung cancer. We had 15 months to work on that succession thing, really. Because if you went to the old, step off the curb, get hit by a bus mantra, I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah.
Now that 15 months as he was gradually passing away was not easy.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful that I had that time to learn a lot more stuff from him
right there
in that window.
And then, so what were those first years like as managing partner?
A lot of work.
Yeah.
There was, interesting, when I left BDO, I was feeling like I was working a ton of hours. The first firm I interviewed for, I felt like they wanted me to work even more.
Yeah.
My first year as a managing partner, I would say I worked more hours that first year than any year prior, even the ones where I thought were my high point at BDO. Partly because at the time I was still functioning as the head of the audit practice and the managing partner. And I was trying to get a lot of things redone, restructured, whatever, to move forward. So, so the first year as a managing partner, I found myself doing some house cleaning in terms of, agreements that hadn't been updated, life insurance policies that need to be renewed. I mean, just things that were good core things for the governance structure that we hadn't really focused on for several years prior.
And then how about the client relationships when you took over? So there's like a transition, there's that period when clients are thinking?
That was not terrible because the client relationships I was working with at that point in time were ones I was already working with for years. I never really served tax-only clients. And so I know some of the tax-only clients over the course of years because, we met and there's always an opportunity if they need something. But the client transition was not an issue for me. There was a client transition issue, though, in what was Steve's list of clients. And so we actually, again, succession planning, had to go out and hire somebody to basically step into Steve's client list.
Okay. So Steve, while he was managing partner, he was still serving clients.
He was. Yeah.
And then so how much of your day now would you say is like structured if you had to break between in-house, running the business, promoting the business and getting more business and serving clients? How does that pyramid fall out?
Well, you remember I said that every day is different.
Yes.
So over the course of the year, probably 55% of my time is still clients.
Okay.
And I can do that based on rough charge hours versus total hours.
Yeah.
The other part is a little less discernible between firm management, firm strategy, and then outward facing marketing, firm promotion, stuff like that.
No.
Best guess I would say is it's probably maybe 60-40, 40 being the management, 60 being the outside focus. And I get away with that 40% of what's left.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe, let's say it's a third of my time. I get away with it being a third of my time because I have a really strong internal staff that supports me. Yeah.
And then would you say like promoting the firm and being outside and being the face of the firm, do you think those skills came naturally to you or did you?
Oh, hell no. No. And it's, I think some people might not appreciate the idea that I'm the face of the firm. There was a transition point where the facilitator we had said managing partner has to be the primary coach, primary business operator, and the primary market facing person. But that's what we expect of all the partners to be able to out there. So my name shows up because I am the managed partner.
Mm-hmm.
It shows up on a lot of lists and that type of thing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that drives business. When I started in public accounting, I was probably as inward facing, introverted as any picture you might have in an accountant.
Okay.
It was something you had to practice, something you had to learn, something you had to be able to get up and do. I think over time, as I was given opportunity to lead meetings, helped. As I was given opportunities to get involved in recruiting, helped. Ultimately, as I started teaching classes, way helped. And whether that was back at BDO or at Cal State Fullerton, that just helped, builds a ton of confidence.
Okay.
The teaching was great too. And I stopped just after COVID, and I may go back someday when I have more time to retool and rethink that. But, teaching was great because for me, it was a lot of times like telling stories, but I could get up in front of a group and I could just tell a story because my class didn't know it, but I prepared for each class for about 15 minutes. And it was a 3-hour class. Yeah. And so I had the book, I had the lecture notes. Yeah. My prep for any class was flipping through the notes, and then every class was a fresh story. So,
Okay. So how would you say in the Orange County market, you have like all the other big fours around here as well, but their offices, but Haskell and White still has like a really good presence, especially like in the public markets and like doing the audits. What has helped you like excel and like actually build out the practice and like scale the practice more?
Well, I think the number one thing you have to build your practice on is providing really good service. Yeah. And technical, really good, timely service, client relationships. From there, you have to have people that are building relationships outside of us. So, I mean, it's attorneys, bankers, it's others that are there. We do a lot of sponsorship of not-for-profit entities. Okay. Some of them are clients, some of them we serve on boards, but those in turn have board members who get to know the firm. So there's just a lot of stuff that you start building your reputation person by person. The early stages of this firm, it was well known as the other firm that does real estate accounting. Okay. Because at the time there was a firm known as Kenneth Leventhal, and they had an office in Newport Beach. Okay. They ultimately merged into Ernst & Young. But it was if you thought Kenneth Leventhal was, whether it was too expensive or out of reach for you for whatever reason, there's Haskell and White. Okay. And so that was the early stage of us as we were known as a real estate accounting firm. We had to work hard to build out other industries. Nonprofit grew on its own. We today have a lot of life science companies. Yeah. That has been one of our fastest growing areas. You meet tons of people in the clients. The clients have board members. It's, we've had client board members refer us other clients. Sometimes they're on that board too. There's an old shampoo commercial, Fabergé. Okay. Tell one friend, they tell two friends, and so on and so on. That's what it becomes. In a different building prior to this one, I had a client once call me because he said he saw the name, our firm name on the building every night was like a beacon on the way home. He had to call us. Yeah. So it's strange ways people find you. Yes. But I know it's not Yellow Book ads because we haven't had any in 20 years.
So do you think like most of this profession is just built on your reputation then?
A lot of it is. It really is. It's name recognition and reputation. Who thinks, who do you think, where was your name last? So there is pressure there to have your name out there and be one of the last ones somebody heard. And so we are nowhere near the size, obviously, of a Big Four office here in Orange County or some of the national firms. So we have to be really picky and choosy and focus where we're going to put our efforts. Yeah. But it's top of mind. This is what I was looking for. It's top of mind. People have to know you're here.
How do you keep that? Like, how do you keep that factor of being top of mind for clients?
Well, clients, you have to be in talking to them regularly. And that's one nice thing about public companies is you have to meet with them every quarter. So that has an advantage for me over, say, a private company, because if we do an audit once a year, we have to make sure that we're keeping contact with that client throughout the year. Not always easy, because sometimes clients say, we'll come back when it's time for the audit. I say, well, no, but I want to talk to you now. Yeah. Then there's the other stuff like you have to be intentional and you have to be consistent. So if you're going to be a member of a business organization, you have to show up. If you're going to be on a board, you have to show up. I mean, I routinely tell our up and coming folks that, a great way to establish yourself, your brand, our brand, build a network, maybe build opportunities for client referrals is to get on a board.
Mm-hmm.
But the very first thing you need to think about is what board do you want to get on and that you want to be there. So it's that board, that organization's mission first.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't believe in the mission and you don't show up,
Yeah.
you're going to screw up two brands, yours because they're going to think you're a flake,
No.
and ours because we're the name on the card you're carrying. So
Interesting. So from those, then you build, where do you begin your teaching for your members of your staff?
where do we begin it?
Where do you begin your marketing teaching and your forward-facing teaching?
It's heaviest at the pre-partner levels because there's a very big push for partners to be able to grow the practice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's heaviest at the senior manager levels. It really, you start getting your staff and seniors indoctrinated to it. We have regular town hall meetings. We talk about, some of our marketing initiatives, and we get them to think about, who do you know? We have a sales referral program that's good for the staff. It's like, it pays them money to get us to meet somebody, and they get more money if we actually get them as a client.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to reward them different ways of teaching. Cause that's one thing that, you don't come out of business school in the accounting program generally being prepared to be a salesman of accounting services.
Correct. And most people don't want to do that.
It's not probably why a lot of people went into the accounting program. They don't think about being sales.
Yeah.
So, I had one writing assignment that I did one year that I thought was going to work out really cool, and it actually flopped.
Yeah.
And I realized it's because of what we don't necessarily teach. And I don't want to get off on a soapbox, but I don't really think business schools teach you how to be in business. They teach you a bunch of subjects that you have to put together and figure out what your path is. And so in the business curriculum, and if you chose accounting as your major, you get all these accounting classes.
Yeah.
And you got some economics, and you got a marketing class.
Mm-hmm.
But like in the accounting, where you get one inventory class on cost accounting, you get one marketing class.
Okay.
And it gives you some ideas, but it doesn't make you a whole machine, if you will, ready to go out into production.
Correct.
And start serving clients and finding new ones.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you have to learn to pull all those pieces together. And that will continue to change as technology and other tools become available that maybe make life easier on some things. But when it comes down to it, technology is going to change how we do work.
Yeah.
But it's not going to eliminate the need for us to be able to think on our own and make sense of data and make sense of transactions and consider why one path is better than another. Why do I go to this marketing event versus going to that marketing event? I mean, maybe Claude can tell me that one's got more benefits, but at the end of the day, I got to decide where I want to go.
True. And then where you have to put your time.
Right.
The other one. So now I want to talk about this. You have this role at LEA Global as your partnership. How did you get involved in that? Was Haskell and White already there when you started? And then how's that changed over the years?
So LEA is our alliance of CPA firms. It's national, international. LEA formed, I believe, after I was already here at Haskell and White, but Steve Haskell was in a group of managing partners. It was kind of an unofficial beginning of LEA. And so when LEA started, I think we were hesitant to join an official association or an alliance network, if you will. But then we did. And really, we've been a member for over 25 years, I think. I was on the board for 10 years. I was off the board for a year. I'm back on the board this year. The alliance has changed a lot in terms of membership.
Okay.
Because the face of accounting firms has changed. I mean, there's been a lot of mergers. Some of our members merged. Some of our members merged out of it into other organizations. So there's always, alliance networks, just like you're recruiting people, you're trying to recruit more firms.
Yeah.
The primary advantage of being a member of an alliance network is you have access to resources for specialty services that you don't have to carry on your balance sheet as assets you can't deploy, because people don't always need this service every day unless you're really big at it. You can call another friendly firm and have them help you out. Pure data and knowledge sharing. We'll go to the LEA conferences and the managing partners all get together. And you can imagine managing partners with a bunch of different size firms. We can all sit around and talk about things like, well, how'd you get there? What did you do? What software are you using? I mean, we all learn from each other. Yeah.
Okay. So from there, and then you're talking about like these mergers and acquisitions. So market is like completely
crazy
right now with like all the mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah.
Every day I wake up and see these PE companies buying like other
Yeah.
PE companies, and then it's just like becoming over there. When you started, I assume there was a trend there of like acquisitions have always been there. But it's been the big four or like the big eight, like absorbing like the smaller firms.
Yeah, well, yeah. So again, if you go back to when I started, there was a big eight.
Yeah.
There was also what was loosely referred to as a middle eight.
Okay.
So there were 16 firms that made up the big chunk of the volume. And I don't remember the fee volume at the time. But you roll forward to something that came out last year. There are now 20 some odd firms that have over $2 billion of revenue.
Okay.
And some of them are just huge.
Mm-hmm.
And but these firms have all gotten larger and larger over time, partly because of M&A,
Mm-hmm.
partly because they've just grown in the extent of services they offer and more clients, more fees, et cetera. But for the last, I don't know, I pick a number, 5-7 years now, the PE involvement in our profession has gotten larger and larger. There are, the first one was done 5 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
It was like, everybody's like, wow, what's that now? And then
Mm-hmm.
there was another one, and then you wait and see what the planned exit's going to be. And the exits have been interesting because they've kind of shuffled the decks a little bit. But they're very active. And so today I'd say there's straight out private equity that's funding firms to go buy more firms. There are other groups that are forming what they call platform arrangements, where there's a bunch of firms getting together that are funded by capital, but may, not always, may retain some identity. And there's a straight out merge you into another firm, like, somebody just buys you and your name disappears from the wall.
Okay.
And so we're not really looking for that as a firm. We're looking at being one of those strong, independent, locally owned, locally operated firms. We're enjoying that as I put it like kind of a motorboat. We're riding in the wake of all this turmoil that they're doing. We're just riding in the wake and enjoying it.
Yeah.
That's not to say I don't get phone calls and emails every day from somebody that would like to acquire us.
So you probably go to these and talk to the other managing partners. Where does a private equity acquisition work out perfectly where all the shareholders are happy? And like, what does that look like from a map perspective? And what's the execution of that makes it like work out perfectly, where you like, if ever we needed to go through, that's the path I would follow?
Well, it's hard for me to answer that question having not gone through it.
Yeah.
I've gotten things, literally written down on a cocktail napkin type or size piece of paper.
Yeah.
I don't know, depending on the size of your firm, there's been some really big ones, right? I mean, BDO did a unique thing in the industry as size they are. They turned into an ESOP. So they got funded by private equity. Baker Tilly was funded by private equity and they acquired Moss Adams. Just as an example, CLA is funded. I mean, there's a lot of firms that are funded by private equity, and the things that they'll focus on when they say, look, this is the benefits we can bring funding for M&A and growth, for technology, for acquiring people and services. I mean, all sounds really good. The question you asked, so, when does it look right for everybody involved? I'm not sure it ever can. And some of the things I've heard are the more senior partners in some firms. It works out really well because it's a earlier term, higher cash out opportunity for them.
Yeah.
The younger partners might not like it going forward because the governance is different.
Okay.
They've got different kickers involved for, 3 to 5 years. When you get this next bump or whatever, there's different goals. I'm just pulling out some of the negatives I've heard for the moment. Some of them are looking at, like, they're much more focused on net profit. And so they make true business decisions, but they're focused on sales, efficiency, profit.
Are they like try to run these less like startups?
Less like startups and more like mature companies. And so private equity, when you think about old style machine shops and stuff like that, they were very good about taking family owned businesses, if you will, and really squeezing out a lot of the wasted time, energy, and money and making it a better, more profitable company. The accounting firms industry, in my view, this is my view, not my partners, I think that's my view. The primary asset in an accounting firm is its people. And so you're trying to figure out how to be more efficient with the people. So that's okay. Bring technology. I think that might help. You're trying to be more and profitable with your client base. So that may be services you can bring that we don't have, we would have perhaps if we had that relationship. The good pieces of a upward transaction is that if they really make good on all of the stuff they promise about capital and technology and growth for all the people, it's kind of hard to say that that could be bad.
Yeah.
But you would give up, a firm like ours would give up what we've often been accused of in a polite way is you're a lifestyle firm, not a commercial firm.
What describe that word. I keep hearing that a lot. A lifestyle firm. Like, what is this connotation? And it's recently come up in the talks now.
Yeah. So lifestyle is, people always say like work-life balance.
Yeah.
I've been saying for years, and people look at me like I got three heads when I say it, life-work balance.
Okay.
Because you work to support your life. You don't live to work.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when we talk about the way we operate here and in busy season, back to that negative word, in busy season, we put targets for people in terms of the hours they work, but they're probably 30% to 50% less than the targets other firms have.
Okay.
Big firms.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got an idea that you can actually go home at night, and see your family, or maybe you got time off on the weekend to do so. Given that focus and that we like to serve our community and we do things that make us perhaps more rounded than a profit-focused firm.
Gotcha.
Because a profit-focused firm may not donate to charity because they would look at it as, what do I get for that?
Like, where's the ROI?
What's the ROI? Yeah. And so marketing is always a weird thing to argue ROI, right? I would argue ROI on making a donation to a particular charity is you're building relationships, you're helping other people. These are all good things. We're not a B Corp, which if you're familiar with that term is very much a sustainable, for the community type of enterprise versus a C Corp tax structure profit. But you can be purely commercial, which is where I would tend to think a private equity corporate ownership might be looking at is what can you get to the bottom line? Mm-hmm. You can be totally laissez-faire and just kind of like, well, what are we going to do today? Let's be happy and whatever and just do stuff. And you be somewhere in the middle, which is, I think, firmly where we are. We're focused on all these things and the well-being of our people and the community around us. And we make good money. Mm-hmm. Do we make all the money we could? No, there's probably things we spend money on that somebody would say, why do that?
But don't you think that overall also helps, I think of it as an investment into your brand and your company that in the short term won't get you the gains, but in the long term, it evens out.
I think so. I think so. And if you can go back to different things on marketing too, the big firms are big. They've got marketing budgets that are probably more than our revenue for the year. Yeah. Right. And it was a time when firms couldn't advertise. I mean, there was a prohibition on advertising till the mid '80s. You couldn't do it. So the things you see today with billboards and everything else in the airport, that was taboo. You couldn't, it was probably illegal.
Because we were regulated industry?
It was somewhat regulated in that these were things professional firms didn't do.
Okay.
Right? So the advertising was not. So firms advertise, they spend, but now it's how many ads do you buy in, your local paper versus bus stands or airports or, where can you be? So we have to be very strategic, but somebody might say, hey, buy this ad, the ROI is going to be X. Mm-hmm. I have a real hard time with the math because my best example is what I remember from my marketing class is if you did a direct mail campaign, which is like coupon mailers, you knew what your ROI was because you knew how many you mailed at and you knew how many got redeemed. Mm-hmm. But if I put money out to a charitable donation today, I don't know how many people I'm going to touch and when it's going to come back. Mm-hmm. But if we're smart about asking those questions when people come back, where did you hear about us? Mm-hmm. Which I know I try to do every time something comes up. Well, who referred you? How did you come to call on us? And so you get an idea where like I told you about the sign. Yeah. Once working for another firm, he knew of us and he knew he needed accounting services. And he just used the sign as his beacon on the way home to be the one to call us.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I don't know. I mean, I much prefer the lifestyle than being beholden to somebody to hit a monthly target.
Okay. So a few firms in Southern Orange County.
There are still quite a few. If you go look at, the Orange County Business Journal just published their list of accounting firms 3 weeks ago. And they're still below what I would say would be the national firms. There still are quite a few firms. In fact, if you look at firms nationally, the top 100 will take you, from the multi-billions of the big four down to, firms that are still in, I think, the couple $100 million, whatever, and they start dropping really fast.
Yes.
So you can be the top 500, you can be a firm that's like $5 million.
Yeah.
But there's thousands of accounting firms.
Yeah.
And so in Orange County, though, there are 4 of us, I would say, are rough similar size, that, we're here in the market. We somehow, we're active here in the market. We don't really step on each other's toes. I don't think we compete that often against each other. We offer slightly different services. And so, the market's big enough to keep us.
Yeah. And then California has so much businesses. I was just on the call with the Cal CPA president yesterday, and she was telling me like how many Cal CPAs we have. We have like roughly 1/10 or 1/8 of all like CPAs in the United States in California alone.
It's a big state.
Yeah. It's a big state.
Well, it's interesting too to see the evolution of license numbers, because when I got mine, it was a mid 5-digit number.
Okay.
And now it's it's upwards of 150,000 licenses or something. So it's grown a lot.
Yeah. So the professional.
I'm not sure it's at the 2 yet. It'd be whoever gets license number 200. So
that's we'll wait for that, and then we'll give out a special Brazora prize for them.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the final questions I love asking our guests is like, once this is done and this is over, I know you've probably you've worked this lifestyle firm, you probably like have had these hobbies outside work. What cause or what activity you want to focus on?
So
what's your succession plan?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. So once we hit the theoretical mandatory retirement age from the firm, I would probably continue, if my partners let me, continue to work for the firm in some capacity.
Yeah.
Maybe that's out marketing for them. Maybe it's being a technical reviewer, mentor for up-and-comers. I would thinking work-wise, what could I do? Because I'm, when I hit 67, I can guarantee I'm not going to sit home.
Yeah.
And my wife won't want me to sit home either. So.
Okay.
But I could see going back and teaching a class or two.
Yeah.
I could also see myself serving on public company boards, which I can't do as a practitioner right now. I can see it. So the other thing I could see is, more travel, personal travel, family time, and whatnot that you would do. So.
Okay, perfect. Family time, and then taking the RV all across the U.S.
Get the RV out of the storage lot and using it more than I do today. Yes. So.
Okay, perfect. Well, this has been like great. I know I learned a lot again. I learn so much every single conversations that we have between us. And then if you have any questions for Wayne, just let me know and then we'll forward them along. But thank you so much for listening. And this is Adam from Bozora Brews. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.